Hi guys, just sitting in the sun on a Saturday and thought I would update you on the dramas that have surrounded me obtaining my surgical notes from my first laparoscopy hysteroscopy surgery 2 years ago. So if you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen my mini meltdown vent that I put on my Insta stories. Dealing with my previous clinic and trying to get these notes has not been a pleasant experience. As you know, I had my laparoscopy hysteroscopy surgery just over 2 weeks ago now, and got quite shocking results. My tubes are not blocked like I was told 2 years ago. My left tube, I was told, was fully blocked and my right tube was partially blocked. This one revealed everything looks normal, everything's clear, there's no damaged tubes. So quite surprising results, not what I was expecting. I felt like I wanted an explanation. I felt like I was owed an explanation from my previous clinic. We based financially draining decisions on the knowledge that my tubes were damaged. So I wanted to get those clinical notes and have a read and see the images as well, and possibly take those notes and my most recent surgical notes to a different doctor to get a third opinion. So when I was recovering from the laparoscopy 2 weeks ago, I called my previous clinic to ask for them to send me the surgical notes via post. They said, yep, that's fine, you'll just need to sign a consent form, we'll post that to you and then you can sign it and send it back and we'll send you the notes. So I received the consent form a whole week later. I had a specialist appointment the following Wednesday and I was wanting to take those notes to that appointment to get his opinion. So I called and asked if it would be a possibility for the notes to be prepared for me to pick up the following week on the Tuesday prior to my Wednesday specialist appointment. That's when they told me, yes, we can do that, but there'll be a $200 fee for us to prepare those notes for you. I said to the receptionist I wasn't told this when I originally asked for the notes. This is news to me, and I've collected notes from you before and this fee has not existed. She said it's a new fee, but only applies to IVF paperwork and reports. I told her the laparoscopy was done before any of my IVF cycles. She said, no worries, that should mean the fee doesn't apply to you. I'll find out and I'll give you a call back. That's when my favourite nurse on the planet called, the nurse that I cannot stand, who called me after my scoops. It's a tough life in the sunshine. She's the nurse who has delivered in the past my beta results in a very couldn't care less kind of fashion. She is not a pleasant person to deal with, and so when I heard her voice on the other end of the phone, I just thought, great. You know, you're one of the reasons I wanted to get as far away from my previous clinic as possible. So I spoke to her and she was very, very blunt on the phone, very matter of fact, lacking empathy, very blunt. She said, it's going to cost you $200 to get the notes. There's no way around it. I said, is there anyone else I can talk to about it? She said, no, I've already spoken to the manager before I called you. We're not waiving the fee. It is what it is. You have to pay $200. And I said to her, I'm sorry, but $200 is an outrageous amount to be charging me for surgical notes. You know, I've paid for the surgery. Those notes should be accessible to me without charging me a hefty fee. She said, I've been in this industry for 15 years and 15 years ago, Melbourne IVF were charging $150, so $200 is really not that much. She was just so unpleasant, and it just made it blatantly obvious that they are a money-making business, greedy as can be. I hung up the phone and cried at my desk. I was so upset and angry and frustrated that, you know, I've received these conflicting results from my laparoscopy. All I want is an explanation, and now I've got another hurdle. They're charging me $200 to get these notes that should be rightfully mine. So many of you suggested I take myself out of the equation and get my specialist to ask for the notes from my previous doctor, which would hopefully avoid the fee. You'd think my current specialist would want to find out, get to the bottom of it for me, get an explanation. You'd think she'd be curious to see those notes for herself, seeing as she's discovered something completely different. So on Monday I called my clinic and asked if there was any possibility my specialist could ask for those notes from my previous specialist, and they said that they would give it a go. About an hour later, I was sitting at my desk at work and my previous clinic started calling me. I thought, oh, please let this not be the nurse. And of course it was. She pretty much told me off for trying to go around what we had discussed on Friday and go around the fee. She told me that it wasn't going to happen that way, that I would have to pay the $200 fee if I wanted to get my notes. By that point, I was so over it, so over her and over everything. I just said to her, I'm sorry, but your tone is completely appalling. The way you speak to me with such lack of empathy is quite shocking, to be honest, and I just cannot believe the way you're speaking to me right now. You have no idea what I have been through. To which she replied, all of my children are IVF children, so I have a pretty good idea actually. I said to her, everyone's journey is different. You don't know what I've been through. Sorry, I just had to wind down the window because the sun was getting a bit too hot. I then asked if I would be able to have access to read the notes and look at the images myself if I was to come into the clinic, and if that would be a way around the fee. She said there is no way around the fee, and there were no images taken during the surgery because everything looked normal. She clearly has no idea what she is talking about. I then told her everything was not normal and I was recommended IVF would be our only option to conceive after that surgery. She then asked me if I wanted to speak to the head of the nurses. I said, yes, please. And so we ended the conversation there, and again, I burst into tears at my desk. Just so over, feeling like I'm battling these places, the places I'm paying a lot of money for them to help me, and I don't feel like a lot of the time they're on my side. They've got other selfish interests that take priority. That's how I was feeling anyway. So the head of the nurses at my previous clinic gave me a call about an hour later, and she was lovely, so compassionate, so sincere. When she said she was sorry that we hadn't had any success still, she said she had looked over my history and surgical notes with my previous specialist. They actually spent some time to go over my notes and explained that what most likely happened is my tube spasmed when they were trying to flush the dye through them, which can happen. They can become quite irritated and spasm and therefore close up, and would have been why the ink didn't go through. They said that because I had already previously requested my whole medical history from that clinic when I went to my current specialist, those notes should have been included, so they were going to waive the fee for me. I was so grateful. So they should. They should never be charging $200 in the first place to click into a file and press print. It is completely outrageous to be charging that amount of money to someone who's already spent a fortune at the clinic and hasn't had the best time or experience there. So I was very grateful for that. They are sending me the notes in the mail. I've yet to receive them. So I didn't have them to take in to my specialist appointment on Wednesday, but that's okay. I got his opinion anyway, and he said the same thing. He thinks that it was likely my tubes had spasmed during the surgery, and something he would normally do would be to rule out damaged tubes and to confirm that they were spasming. He would have done an ultrasound a couple of weeks or a few weeks later. Just goes to show how differently specialists operate. But yeah, it was a very unpleasant experience dealing with my previous clinic again and having to deal with that nurse. Just appalling. She should not be in the job she is in if she lacks that sensitivity. It's such a sensitive topic. I already had other things going on in my world, apart from this infertility stuff that was causing me stress with a loved one. So it was just the straw that broke the camel's back a bit. I was over it by that stage, over the whole journey. One thing after another, one hurdle after another. They just suck you dry, these clinics. But anyway, got there in the end without having to pay that ridiculous fee, so that's a good thing. After I shared my little rant on Insta stories, I got so many messages from so many lovely people suggesting things that I can do and showing their support. So if you're one of them, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's us against them. That's what it feels like sometimes. It shouldn't be that way, but hey. I had an appointment with a new specialist on Wednesday to go over what he thought about my immune protocol and the things he does that my other specialists haven't offered. So I will film a separate video to go over that appointment soon. Thanks so much for watching and hearing me vent again, and for all of your continued support. Love and baby dust, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye guys.
Barely 7 weeks, but the world's longest tease. You said you've never felt this way.